really what that means is right now we can go to about 18,000 locations in the US. With CLIA waiver and this new claim, we'll be able to go to about 220,000 locations. So that's just about access and giving more people the opportunity to use the test, which again can make a big difference in treatment decisions.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Lumos Diagnostics CEO, Doug Ward. Doug, very good to speak with you. As we near the end of the year, could you summarize Lumos's key growth milestones in 2024?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again for having me on today, Stephen. Greatly appreciate it. So overall, I would say the calendar year 2024 has been a terrific year for Lumos on all fronts, really. First of all, from a strategic standpoint in moving our product and services businesses forward, we were able to sign Hologic up as a key strategic services partner. We can talk more about what that is later if you wish. In addition, we made some wonderful progress relative to bringing our own branded products to market, both the Virodex and the FebriDx products. And lastly, I think, and equally as important as the other two is we've really further stabilized the financials of the company in terms of driving growth from a sales perspective and trying to maintain expenses as tightly as possible. And lastly, with a nice new capital raise that we were able to achieve this year in bringing some new investors into the company. So all around, we feel very, very, positive about the year.
You mentioned FebriDx, Doug, and you've made impressive leaps and bounds with FebriDx. Could you quickly explain how the device works and why its use cases, clinical practice is now so incredibly strong?
Yeah, absolutely. So FebriDx is a totally unique product, right? First, I'll describe, okay, what is it? What does it do? How does it work? And then why is it so unique, if you will? So FebriDx is able to differentiate a bacterial infection from a viral infection. Okay. And the way that works is it's much like how a COVID test looks in terms of a cartridge and the pad, and you put your sample on it, except we use whole blood, which is very unique instead of a swab, if you will. And then you put the whole blood onto the test strip, and then you wait, anywhere from 10 minutes up to 60 minutes, you get the result, and it will tell the physician, do you have a viral or a bacterial infection? Again, today, that doesn't exist close to the patient in that type of time frame. Okay. And why is that so important? Well, it's all about antibiotics. As we all know, more and more, unfortunately, we've been giving antibiotics to people who should not be getting them, i.e. people with a viral infection, right? If you have flu or COVID or RSV, you don't give people antibiotics. That just creates resistance to those antibiotics. So we're doing a number of things with this product. Number one, we're helping the physician make the right diagnosis in order to make the right treatment decisions. Two, by limiting antibiotics going to the correct patients, we're, I think, helping to mitigate resistance to antibiotics. And lastly, that creates a strong, I'd say, overall financial and clinical benefit to the physicians, to the payers, to the hospital systems themselves. So all around a great product and newly introduced this year into the market.
I mean, a standout achievement this year was your new partnership with BARDA, that's the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. What's the scope of this financial commitment and how will it build sustainable value for your shareholders?
Yeah, so this is a huge win for Lumos and hopefully for the world, and especially here in the US. So BARDA is part of the US government, right? And they typically will provide non-dilutive funding to companies to progress certain say, in our case, diagnostic tests that are important to an objective for the US government. In this case, antibiotic stewardship, identifying in the US bacterial versus non-bacterial infection. And they want that at the point of care, which means at a GP's office. In the US, our label for that test is limited in terms of it can be used under in the US a license under CLIA because it's called moderate complex type of test. What we're trying to achieve is to get this CLIA waived, which means it can go direct to to a GP office, and then they're funding that study for us. They're paying about $3 million US for us to do that study. In fact, as we had an announcement yesterday, we enrolled our first patients into that clinical trial. Hopefully, we'll be able to finish that trial up by the end of flu season this year here in the US, call it April timeframe-ish. And then we'll be able to submit that to the FDA. And really what that means is right now we can go to about 18,000 locations in the US. With CLIA waiver and this new claim, we'll be able to go to about 220,000 locations. So that's just about access and giving more people the opportunity to use the test, which again can make a big difference in treatment decisions.
Doug, the company's business model is intelligently diversified. How are you capturing value from B2B partnerships, in particular with leading companies like Hologic?
Yeah, exactly. So the company was really built upon a services model. We've done contract development and contract manufacturing for other diagnostic companies in our past. And you would do about 12 different agreements a year and fulfill those. And most of those, if you will, were short run arrangements. So they might last a year or less. And you were paid for those and so forth. But really working with significant companies like Hologic. Hologic is a $30 billion market cap company, the largest women's health diagnostic company in the world. And to have them partner and choose us to build their instrument, to manufacture the instrument, to make their next generation test, which is FFN, which is a preterm birth test for pregnancy. It's just, that's like, right, when you're fishing, you want to fish for the whales and not just the minnows. And here we are with Hologic, and that will turn into something where we get one test and we'll get another because they'll want a portfolio of products on that instrument that we're developing and going to manufacture for them. So yeah, this is a big step forward strategically for us.
You mentioned that recent capital raise in which you attracted some respected names to your share register, Doug. Why is this a critical component of Lumis's long-term growth strategy?
Yeah, so we are cash flow negative still as a company at this time, and it's critical that we really drive and act smartly relative to our capitalization as a company. We try to do that with revenue, obviously, and the more that we can go in that direction, the better for everyone. But we also need to, on occasion, raise more capital. And in this latest instance, we raised 10 million Australian. And we have great institutional investors that like Ryder Capital that invested into the company and continues to invest and hold their position. And now we've been very fortunate in that we have 10 Mile, which is funded by Andrew Forrest. We were able to get them to lead that capital raise. And I think it's just really important to see, institutions like that coming in as we're making this transition to, over time to cash flow positive and moving the company forward. And I think having names like Ryder and 10 Mile in our book is just, I think, positive for the company to attract ongoing, retail investors into the company as well, which is really important to us.
A share price performance aside, how do the financials and revenue opportunities stack up for Lumos as you look to grow the company into the new year?
Yeah, always an important question. So last year, right, mid-year was the end of our fiscal year, in the calendar year there in end of June. We had about a 6% year-on-year growth. We expect to do better than that here in 2025. First half performance, those results will be coming out in January-ish. We'll announce those, but what people are going to see is significant year-on-year growth. First half 24 versus first half 25. We're going to see very positive growth in regard to revenue.
And finally, what can investors broadly look forward to in 2025, Doug?
Yeah. So I hope more of the same, quite frankly. I think what you're going to see will continue to drive our partnership and our services business, with our anchor there of Hologic. We'll continue to press forward with that development program. We're really focused on this clinical trial that we just started, that BARDA is funding, to really expand the market. So that will be a significant opportunity, and we'll continue to grow our revenue line with our current products and I think hopefully act very, very smartly relative to our cash expenditure and so forth. So we're really looking forward to 2025 to be another great year for Lumos.
Hope you'll keep us updated with your progress as the year progresses. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Well, thank you, Stephen. Really appreciate it.
That's Doug Ward, the CEO of Lumos Diagnostics.